Welcome to Tuesday Talks with Darleen, and I'm so excited because my special guest is Caurel Richards. Now, Caurel is from the beautiful business called In Divine Thyme Transformation Services,
Yeah.
and she's a dynamic and creative individual with a wealth of knowledge and experience, having worked in multiple service industries in the last 14 years. Now, one of the biggest lessons she has learned in these years was the importance of mental health. And I so want to talk about that, and how unhealed trauma, and I really want to talk about that, can keep you stuck and away from life you've dreamed of. Now, her mission is to help clients with complex childhood trauma break down barriers and release unhealthy habits and patterns to rediscover freedom and peace of mind. And I love peace of mind. Her
Yes.
goal is to get you excited about life again by empowering you with a fresh perspective. Now, I am so excited to talk to you because everything that you do is what I'm so passionate about, because mental health
Awesome.
is my passion.
Good.
And for those that follow me know that I actually have mental illness and I'm thriving
Yes.
because I've worked with people like you that have helped me understand stuff, and it's just so exciting. So I'd love to talk about how it all sort of came together for you to create this business.
Yeah. First of all, I'm happy to be here. Anything mental health related, I am always excited to share my little insights, my gems, if you want to call it that. Um, for me, I think back to a moment when I had no clue what mental health was.
Mm.
I had no clue what existed beyond me just being here. And I know that I'm supposed to experience life, but I know for me, experiencing life was not fun.
Mm.
I made the best of it, of course, because that's just the genuine person that I am. Unfortunately, I grew up in chaos, right? And in being in chaos 24/7, it's very noisy. So even when I don't want the chaos, it exists, and it prevented me from actually having peace of mind, and also having a sense of or a semblance of freedom, because you have all of these expectations that are placed on you, what you're supposed to look like, where you're supposed to go, what you're supposed to do. And when those things aren't necessarily connected to who you are authentically, it poses a problem, because you're put in a space where you have to choose, who do I show up as? Do I show up as who I want to be, or who do I show up as the person that everybody else expects me to be? And when you're younger, the choice is always safety. And in being safe, you choose the latter, which is to be who you're not. It's to walk around with a mask, because that is how you will survive. And for a very long time, I was in survival mode, but I was not at my happiest. I could say I was happy in moments, it was very fleeting, but I wanted to experience happiness. I wanted to experience joy. I wanted to experience peace 24/7. And I know that's a stretch, but that honestly is what I wanted to experience. And I couldn't experience that with the lifestyle that I was living, and just the choices that I was making, and the habits and the patterns that I had. And eventually it just caught up to me, and I had a choice to make. And this time I chose myself.
Mm. Beautiful. I love that, how you chose yourself.
Yeah.
And I don't think they really understand that it's a choice, and it's by choosing yourself, you're not being selfish. You're actually doing so much for yourself.
Yes.
And so, one thing I'd love to hone in on is you said about survival. What
Yeah.
does that actually mean so people understand what survival means?
Survival, in my opinion, was just existing.
Mm.
It was doing what I was told for the sake of staying alive, essentially.
Mm.
In my head, that's how it was. I'm just
Mm.
like, there's a choice to either go to university and be a lawyer or a doctor or whatever else was on the table, or do arts, or stick to something that brought me great joy. Unfortunately, what brought me great joy isn't something that was lucrative at the time, isn't something that I was acceptable according to my parents. and you want to be accepted by your parents, you want to be loved and appreciated, and in your head at that time, I'm thinking, well, if I want to be loved by them, if I want to be accepted by them, then I have to do what they want, because that's the behaviors that I was predisposed to. It's, if you want to stay alive, you got to make them happy. And that's where the people pleasing at this point came in for me. And that was my survival mode. Thank God I'm out of that.
I know, it's incredible, isn't it? Because we grew up fairly similar. Like for me, there was no love. We never talked about, I love you or anything
Yeah.
like that. My parents never encouraged me to do anything at all. Like they were in survival mode. So how
Yes.
could I know anything? And
Yes.
so with all of that, like it's just incredible. So how does survival mind affect your mental health?
One, it allows for you to stay disconnected from who you are, because unfortunately the mind is wired for us to stay alive, so
Mm,
it'll do anything that it needs for you to stay alive.
mm,
Unfortunately, our mind may be wired with patterns and habits that, yes, will allow for us to survive, but it will also stop us from thriving,
mm,
right? And I believe that everybody genuinely wants to thrive, but those behaviors of wanting to, even, for example, isolating yourself isn't going to allow for you to get seen. So I know I have a gift for speaking. I know I have a gift for sharing knowledge. And I was very afraid of speaking up or having a voice. So do you see the conflict in thoughts?
yeah.
I want to be seen, and I know this is my purpose. However, I don't like to be seen because that means that I'm unsafe. So those two thoughts are kind of combative towards each other. And essentially what happens is that you end up doing nothing.
Mm,
So it affects your mental health, because the things that you want to achieve in life, you're unable to do so safely.
mhm,
When you're not living in your authentic state, when you're not living to your true heart's desire, that's where anxiety comes in, that's where depression comes in, that's where the insomnia, because there's so many things you should be doing, things that you want to be doing, but unfortunately you're stopping yourself from doing it, of course, because that's just how your mind is wired. And at the same time too, you want these things to be done, so you can't sleep at nights because it's safer to, have those thoughts ruminating, because they're your true thoughts,
mhm.
but unfortunately you just can't, I would say, put them into action or execute them, so it keeps you up at night. And that was just my story.
Yeah, yeah. And for me, like I'm the same. I love sharing knowledge. I love getting up and speaking. Yet at the same time, because of everything that happened to me, is I didn't want to be seen. Yet I
Exactly.
actually put myself into situations where I had to be seen. I become
Yes.
like, a formal and informal teacher in my nursing career, did all that, and I just went, what am I doing? Like it took me a long, long time to realize what
Yeah.
I was actually doing.
Yeah.
And, that's why I end up with mental illness.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing I express to people. A lot of the mental illnesses, a lot of the symptoms that we're experiencing are it's so much greater than those symptoms. So
Mm,
it's always important to ask yourself, and this is kind of how I go through it, and something that I learned through Marissa Peer is, ask yourself, if that symptom, and I'll go with, if that anxiety had a voice, what would it be saying to you in this moment? And I had to be honest and listen to because your thoughts, you
mhm,
do get the answers. Your intuition tells you these things. So it's just for you to listen. So when I would ask that question, it would say, oh, you're not safe. But then I know logically that I am. So where's that thought coming from? And that's when you start to do some introspection.
mhm,
And the introspection tells you, well, the last time you did some public speaking, you forgot your words. You were basically frozen in time. So you're like, oh, we don't want you to do this again, because we don't want that to happen to you again. I'm like, well, I was 12.
yeah.
I am in my 30s now. I've done so much growing. I've done so much practicing. This is what I love to do. I've honed in on that. So that's no longer a concern, and you are very much compassionate to that little girl that first had that experience. And you do that enough times that it becomes a new pattern. and you're like, you know what, I got this. I am a star and I'm gonna rock this.
Yeah, and I mean, look at us now, like
Right?
yeah, yeah, and I love how you talked about your intuition because that's my passion. And so can you tell people what's the difference between a thought that comes into your mind and your intuition, because they are different?
Wow. Intuition for me is a little bit more still. It's a
Mhm.
little bit more calm. It's not fear-based,
Mm,
while those other thoughts are like, oh, so if you do this, then this is what's going to happen. It's a little bit more fear-based. And if you don't do this, then this is what may happen. And I heard something today that I'm going to share with you. Your mind needs answers,
mhm,
and your heart will never have questions.
mm,
So when I feel what comes up, that I'm not questioning anything, it just feels real, it just feels still. I'm like, I'm going with this. And then
mm,
I've recognized recently what my human design is. And my human design tells me, because I'm a manifester according to
mhm.
my human design, that I need to listen to my intuition because I'm splenic.
Yep.
So my intuition is my guiding light, and it's learning to trust that intuition that will allow for me to go in the direction of my purpose. So I have learned over time to listen and just trust that I am being guided
Mm.
directly in the direction that I need to go.
Yeah, and I love that quote you just said. And for me, I went with affirmations for so long, and yet it was like, yeah.
Eh,
And
yeah.
now I love affirmations because what it's doing, it's actually connecting my heart and my brain together.
Yes.
Because affirmations, as you said, we don't need questions, but sometimes I do. So to
Yeah.
turn an affirmation is like, I am wealthy. I turn that around and go, how am I wealthy? And my heart goes, oh my goodness, you're wealthy like this, and this. And
Yeah. Oh,
suddenly
that's beautiful.
both,
I love that. Oh, that's a gem right there.
well, then both have connected because my brain has been I've recognized it and I've put awareness to it. And then my
Yeah.
heart goes, wow, okay, let's think about all the ways that you're wealthy. And it's just
Awesome. I'm gonna steal that, by the way.
go for it. I'm not the one that created affirmations,
Oh,
but because I work with the chakras and my intuition so much, that's how I've connected them because, I love the chakras. And that's what supported my mental health, one of the biggest things.
boy. Wow. What
Mm.
tell me a little bit about your mental health history.
Yeah, for me, so what happened was, and I'm open about all of this, so I talk about it all the time because I'm so passionate. So
Yeah.
I grew up in a religion, and it wasn't a cult or anything like that. I'm actually grateful for the religion because it gave me stability. Like
Yeah.
that's one thing I'm grateful for. I was sexually abused as a child, and then and I love my parents, but they just never knew how to parent. They were survivors. That's all they could do. So
Yeah.
all of that actually developed,
Yeah.
complex childhood trauma, all of that. Yeah, all of that. Then, I didn't know what to do. I left in year 10, so I had no high school certificate. That's what it was called back then. None of that sort of, and I had no idea what I was going to do. So I tried all these things, fell into nursing. It was never a passion. And, like I'm
I'm
great.
not surprised.
Never a passion. And of course, I was bullied and everything in nursing. And so I moved around so much to get away
Yeah.
from things. And then, all of that, because I worked on the front line, I was also a paramedic. So working on the front line, all
Yeah.
of that developed all of the, just stacked up all that trauma. So I
Yeah.
ended up with depression, anxiety, PTSD, and I was
Yeah.
suicidal. Like I had all four stages, the plan, the means, everything.
Yeah. And here you are now.
Yeah,
Thank you for
exactly.
sharing that with me. Honestly,
Hmm.
I love to hear other people's story as much as I love to share my
Mm,
own, because there's so many connections that we can
mm,
make. I First of all, it's my first time meeting you, and just to see that the connection, the same experiences, similar
mm,
experiences that we've had. And the one thing I did recognize when you were speaking is, and this is something that I used to do as well, and I had a hard time with it too. It's, we feel the need to explain that we love our parents,
yeah,
and we want to give their story. And sometimes I believe that that takes away from our own.
Mm,
And why I say that is because it's almost like you're giving them a pass. And we both know
mm,
that hurt people. So they can only go from what they know,
mhm.
right? And it's almost like we feel a little bit more comfortable when we're telling our story, when we try to make it look like we're not trying to bash them. When
Yeah.
the truth is we're not, right?
Yeah.
We're just honestly sharing
Mm,
our story because there's power in our story
mm,
and there's power in sharing that
yes.
story without sharing it from a victimhood standpoint and from an empowered standpoint to be like, look, I went through these things
Yeah.
and God knows maybe I would have changed it, maybe I wouldn't have changed
Mm,
anything, but here I am
mhm.
still standing and I'm better for it.
Mm,
Yes, I have struggles
yes.
like everybody
Mhm.
else, however, I'm not making excuses.
Mm,
And at the same time, also being compassionate to myself, knowing that it's just a day by day thing. It's a
yeah.
moment by moment thing because to go any further than that is going to be a struggle.
Yeah, and I want to hone in on that. And thank you for sharing what you just did, because yes,
Yeah.
I do actually I do that.
Yes.
I freely admit that. But to hone in on the fact that it is a moment by moment, day by day things. Like I've got plans, yet
Yes.
every day is what's important, because
Yeah.
when you live in the future, that's when depression and anxiety can happen. When you live in the
Yeah.
past, depression and anxiety can happen. If you
Mm-hmm.
live in the moment, like I'm living in this moment right now, because I'm so
Yes.
excited talking to you. So I'm living in this moment. And that means that nothing's worrying me, because I'm loving this
Your
moment.
being. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And that's when you get the most out of life is when you're actually living in the now, getting from it what you need,
Mm,
being present, and we're taking in what each other has to say.
mm,
And it's just this semblance of peace.
mm-hmm.
And that's the peace of mind that I won't say I give to people because I
Yeah.
don't think I can give them that.
Mm,
What I do in essence, and you mentioned it earlier, is I empower them to see
mm,
that, you know what happened in the past you really can't change.
mm-hmm.
What you can change is your perspective, and what's
Mm,
happening in the future we don't know what's going to happen. That's really entirely
mm-hmm.
depending on how you show up
Yep.
versus thinking, oh, I'm going to use my imagination and
Mm,
my imagination is going to become reality.
mm,
When the truth is there's so many factors around us that
mm-hmm.
we uncontrollable
Mm,
factors at that,
yeah.
that to be honest with you, it's better to just be here in the now.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, talking about an uncontrolled factor, well, I actually rent, and I got an email a couple of weeks ago saying you need to vacate. It's like, okay. And because I've done so much work on my mental health, because I work with a psychologist, I've got great friends and
Yeah.
other professional support.
Yeah.
That email comes through, and I looked at it and I went, I did actually say a swear word, which I won't because I don't swear, but I did. And then I went, oh, this is exciting. What am I going to do? And it was
I
so
love that.
cool. It was so cool. It's like, oh, actually, this is exciting. And,
I
I
love
had
that.
beautiful friends actually be honest with me. And I said, yeah, because they said, you would be, if you hadn't got that email, you would still be stuck where you are. And I went, you're right. I would
Yeah,
be.
it gets you moving.
Yeah.
And I love how you looked at it as exciting. A lot of people would have looked at that
Mm,
situation as one unpredictable. It's
mhm,
very daunting. But the fact that you looked at it that way, it's
mm,
almost like you're inviting what is to
mhm,
come, and that could be good or bad. I try
mm,
not to look at things as black or
mhm,
white, but you never know what can happen. And I share this experience with you. I remember when my work permit was rejected here in Canada, and I said it to my friend as well. I was like, "Oh my God, it got rejected! I'm so happy." They looked at me like I was nuts, you know. But
Yep.
I knew something greater was
Mm,
coming, so I shared that only to say that there's always something
mhm,
greater coming when a door has been closed,
yep.
because it means that one, it's time to shake this up a little bit
Mhm,
because maybe we're just a little bit too
mm,
comfortable, and maybe there's also a lesson. And I know we don't like lessons
mm,
sometimes, but sometimes it's very necessary, especially
mhm,
for each individual's growth, each individual's evolution.
mhm,
So just be grateful in those
Mm,
moments, because I'm telling you, what's on the other side, you
mm.
cannot imagine. It's just gonna happen.
It is, because I'm actually moving to somewhere I wanted to move to for ages and just never
There
done
you
it.
go.
And so now
There you
I'm looking, okay, so, and I know that the first place I'll go to won't be the permanent. I know
Yes,
that, but I'm
and that's
excited. Okay,
okay.
where can I go? What can I do? And it's
Yeah.
so cool. And you're right about experiences, because this experience, I'm really embracing it, because I'm actually going to be putting it into my book. So
Ah,
why not?
lovely.
Why not look at all of these things and go, what can I actually do with it?
Yeah,
How can I support my mental health when things like this happen? And for
exactly.
me, it means doing less business. It actually means doing less business and doing more support for myself,
Yeah.
because that's
Wow.
what I need to do.
Good. You
Mm,
know, that's a valid point, and I'm glad that you mentioned earlier that the people around you, you've created a support
mhm,
system. And I think it's very important for people
mm,
to understand that having a support system is
mhm,
crucial to your mental health.
mhm,
We are communal people, we are community-based people.
mhm,
So if you are by yourself, one, there is no one to bounce your ideas
mhm,
off of. Two, there's no one to make it a little bit more enjoyable,
mm.
because you're able to connect, you're able to
Yeah.
have an exchange.
Mhm,
A support system is so
mm.
vital to life. You
Yes.
know, you just have to be mindful and very selective of the people that you
Mhm,
expose yourself to. If you notice that when you leave an experience with someone that you are drained,
mhm,
then maybe that person isn't for you.
mhm,
And then also you can question, you know, why is it that I'm drained? It's asking these questions and actually having the conversations that can give you some clarity. So instead of just up and just
mhm,
deserting this person, have a conversation, because you'd be surprised just by talking to the individual that you'll realize that maybe you guys just were a bit disconnected, and
mhm,
there was a misunderstanding between
mhm.
both. And that is probably why the friendship or the relationship hasn't been going in the direction that you both needed to. So I do believe that it's important to talk through things
Mm.
with the people that you are in fact surrounding yourself with.
Yeah, and that's so true. And like the people I've surrounded myself with actually listen to me. Like they actually hear me. And I think that's the biggest thing. In the
Yeah,
past, I've had friendships, yet when I look back, I realize that it hasn't actually been a friendship. It's been two people sort of, chatting to one another. But now I've got friendships where we hear one another. We actually listen to one another. And I think that's the biggest thing with our clients, is they get the transformations because we hear them.
yeah.
We actually hear
That's so
them, and then we rephrase, or however we work, we actually take it back to them, and then they go, oh,
true.
and
Yeah.
they get the transformation. It's not us going, okay, so you need to do this, this, and this. It's not that. It's actually
No.
hearing them.
Yeah, there's no empowerment in that. And I think
Mm,
I've had clients that will come to me and ask me, okay, so what do I do here? First of all, I can't tell you what to do. I've
mm,
always stated I can't tell you what to do, but what I can do is to give you some clarity, you know,
mm,
giving you a different perspective, look, having you perceive it differently. And then from that information, you can make the decision. But I
mm,
can never tell you what to do, because then it gives you no responsibility in the
mm-hmm,
choices that
yeah,
you have made. Because at that point, I would have been the one to make that
mm.
choice. And again, I guess you'd still be responsible in essence for taking that responsibility. So essentially, it's just better if you don't have the clarity, which I know a lot of people have a hard time
Mm,
gathering the clarity, because there's it's so noisy and so messy upstairs sometimes. So I do understand that, but after having the clarity, you are empowered, you are powerful to know what direction to go. And even if you don't get it right the
mm,
first time, the second time, I believe that mistakes are necessary in
mhm,
life, because it shows you how not to do it in
mhm.
the future.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's like me. Like, I'm now an artist, and I wasn't growing up because my high school teacher, she wanted people that could do traditional painting and drawing. That wasn't me. I needed the freedom of, like, this is what's called acrylic pouring. And I mean, you can't control it. There is no
Yeah, there's no
control.
structure. Wow. Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. And that's what I love about it, because for my whole life, I've really, control was a big thing for me. Like I needed that control. And I think
Yeah.
that's one thing that actually did affect my mental illness.
Yeah.
So allowing myself to, okay, what can I control and what can't I? And
Yeah.
do more things that help me understand about lack of control, which is this painting. Like there's no
Yeah.
control.
That's amazing though, because I did see them. I didn't know that you did them.
Mm.
So it's just, what is it called?
Acrylic pouring. And there's
Acrylic
many
pouring.
different techniques. Like, so
Ah,
acrylic
okay.
pouring's like the overall thing, and then you've got lots of techniques underneath.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
wow, this is beautiful. Good for
Mm.
you.
Yeah,
You
thank
know,
you.
good for you.
Mm. Now, before we finish up, and I actually don't want to finish up, but I know we need to. What's one beautiful thing that you can give anyone watching this video to help them with their mindset, their mental health?
This is something that I wish someone had given to me in my moments of hardship, of trauma. It's compassion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's just something about the word compassion, just the action of being compassionate, kindness towards oneself.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to give kindness and compassion to others, but
Mm-hmm.
we really do have a hard time giving it to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So the one thing that I would want you to give yourself, walk away from this conversation with, is just be a little bit kinder to yourself on a daily basis. Take it one step at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Those moments when you think, oh, that was a dumb move, you know, be like, you know what? It wasn't so dumb after all.
Mm-hmm.
And just question what you have gotten out of it. What was the trade-off, you know, for doing what you have done? One, you've learned something new,
Mm-hmm.
and it just goes from there. So it's never necessary to beat up on yourself. That may have been something that was familiar to you, either from the exterior or from the internal, but I do believe that compassion is the beginning of, you know, your healing. And then in being compassionate towards yourself, then you can get the awareness, because it's really hard to get the awareness if you're beating up on yourself. So just be compassionate to yourself and know that you're doing the best that you can with the tools that you have. And as you evolve, you get more tools, so you get to be more compassionate,
Mm-hmm.
and the healing journey just continues.
I love that. I've actually got tears because it's so beautiful. Like it's so true. That compassion is just,
Yeah.
it's just so beautiful.
Yes,
Oh,
it is.
thank you, Coral. Thank you so much. Sorry, Coral. I
It's
have to say
okay.
names right.
It's
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you, Coral, so much for your time. And for anyone following, please check the description because I've got where you can actually find Coral. And please
Yeah.
go and check her out because I mean, hello, look at this conversation. I mean, just you've got to go and check her out. It's just,
Yes.
yeah, it's just
There's
incredible.
more where that came from.
Yeah, yeah, lots more. Beautiful, thank you. And for anyone following, don't forget to subscribe so you know when there's more amazing conversations like this.